They told us prayer is just talking to God. But in Scripture, prayer didn't just comfort, it split seas, opened prison doors, brought nations to their knees, and even carried the Son of God to the cross. Today, I want to show you 5 prayers that shook heaven and changed the world. And here's the truth: if they worked then, they still carry power now. Welcome to the Word, where faith comes alive and truth hits home. Today we're breaking down the 5 most powerful prayers in the Bible. These aren't just old stories, they're blueprints for the struggles we're all facing in 2025: stress, fear about the future, financial pressure, broken families, and the battle to keep hope alive. By the end of this video, you'll see why these prayers aren't just ancient words. They're survival tools for right now. To my amazing subscribers, I crafted this video especially for you, and I pray it speaks to your heart and blesses you greatly. But here's the challenge: most of us treat prayer like a last resort. Like that emergency glass you only break when life is falling apart. But what if prayer is supposed to be the very thing that builds your life before it falls apart? That's what these 5 prayers reveal. So let's start with the prayer Jesus gave his disciples. It's short. It's simple. And it's the most repeated prayer in human history. The Lord's Prayer, a blueprint for survival. Picture this: the sun beating down on a hillside in Galilee. Crowds gathered, desperate for answers. Rome controlled their lives. Taxes crushed them. Religion felt cold and unreachable. They weren't just asking how to pray. They were asking how to survive in a world stacked against them. And Jesus gives them words we still whisper today: Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Matthew chapter 6 verses 9 to 10. This wasn't just prayer, it was rebellion against fear. Calling God Father in a world where Caesar claimed to be Lord was radical. Asking for daily bread wasn't about pantry snacks, it was life or death in a land where drought and famine were real. Forgiveness wasn't optional, it was survival in a culture of vendettas and blood feuds. Fast forward to 2025. Families are drowning in debt. Anxiety is the silent epidemic. We doom scroll headlines about war, climate chaos, and broken politics. And Jesus' words cut through the noise: Give us today our daily bread, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. The Lord's Prayer is a ritual, and a reset button. It tells us God isn't a distant ruler, but a present Father. It reminds us He supplies what Amazon and Wall Street can't. And it grounds us in hope that His kingdom is bigger than the chaos of this world. But Jesus wasn't the first to pray bold prayers. Centuries earlier, a young king asked God for something most of us would never think to request. And what happened next made him the wisest and richest man who ever lived. Solomon's prayer for wisdom, choosing what matters most. The scene is night in Gibeon. Solomon, newly crowned king, feels the weight of a nation on his shoulders. He's young, inexperienced, probably terrified. Then God appears in a dream and says, "Ask for whatever you want me to give you." 1 Kings chapter 3 verse 5. It's the ultimate blank check. Riches, power, victory over enemies, the things most rulers would kill for. But Solomon asks for something different: "Give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong." 1 Kings chapter 3 verse 9. And God gives it. Not just wisdom, but also wealth, honor, and influence unmatched by any king of his time. Why does this matter now? Because in 2025, we live in a culture that tells us to chase money, fame, clout, the next viral post. We're drowning in information but starving for wisdom. Every day we scroll through a feed of opinions, algorithms, and AI-generated noise, but wisdom, that's in short supply. Solomon's prayer speaks directly to us: choose wisdom over wealth, character over comfort, discernment over distraction. And when you do, God can trust you with the rest. Remember what happened right after Solomon prayed. 2 women came fighting over a baby. Solomon's judgment, offering to split the child, exposed the true mother. The whole nation marveled. That wisdom didn't just solve problems, it saved lives. And speaking of saving lives, hidden deep in the dusty genealogies of the Old Testament is a man with a name that meant pain. But with one short prayer, he flipped his destiny upside down. The prayer of Jabez, breaking generational chains, buried in 1 Chronicles, a book most people skim because it's filled with names. Suddenly the camera zooms in on one man, Jabez. His very name meant pain. Imagine being called sorrow every time someone shouted your name. His destiny looked sealed before he even grew up. But Jabez didn't accept it. He cried out to God, "Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my territory. Let your hand be with me, and keep me from harm so that I will be free from pain." 1 Chronicles chapter 4 verse 10. And scripture says simply, and God granted his request. Here's why this matters today. Some of you watching feel like you've inherited nothing but pain, cycles of debt, broken families, addiction, trauma. The world says, that's just who you are. You'll never break free. But the prayer of Jabez proves that your name, your past, your background doesn't define you. In 2025, so many people are trying to rebrand themselves online, to curate a perfect image while hiding the real pain underneath. Jabez didn't curate, he cried out. And God rewrote his story. That same God can expand your territory, not just in land or wealth, but in influence, in freedom, in peace. But Jabez isn't the only one who prayed out of deep pain. Generations later, a woman wept so bitterly in God's house that even the priest thought she'd lost her mind. And yet, her prayer changed the destiny of a nation. Hannah's prayer, from tears to triumph, the story unfolds in 1 Samuel. Hannah was barren. Her rival mocked her mercilessly. Year after year, her heart shattered in silence. But one day in the temple, she poured out her soul before God. So intense was her prayer that Eli, the priest, thought she was drunk. But God heard her cry. And Hannah gave birth to Samuel, the prophet who would anoint kings, including David. In gratitude, she lifted up a prayer that still rings today. My heart rejoices in the Lord my horn is lifted high. The Lord brings death and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and raises up. 1 Samuel chapter 2 verses 1-6. Hannah's prayer wasn't just thanksgiving, it was prophecy. Through her son, God raised up leaders who prepared the way for Christ. Why does this matter now? Because in 2025, millions of people silently wrestle with disappointment, infertility, loneliness, and heartbreak. Social media tells us to filter our pain, to fake it till you make it. But Hannah teaches us that God meets us when we're most raw, when our prayers are messy, when our tears speak louder than our words. Her story is proof that the places of our greatest sorrow can become the soil of our greatest joy. That's not just Bible poetry, that's reality. And yet, even Hannah's deep cries can't compare to the prayer that shook the Garden of Gethsemane. A prayer whispered in blood and sweat, on the very night the world's salvation hung in the balance. Jesus' prayer in Gethsemane, surrender that saved the world. It's midnight in Gethsemane. The disciples are asleep. The air is thick with betrayal. Jesus falls to the ground, overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. His prayer, my Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. Matthew chapter 26 verse 39. This wasn't a neatly packaged prayer. It was raw. It was agony. The Son of God wrestling with the full weight of sin, knowing the cross was hours away. And yet, he surrendered. Not my will, yours. That prayer opened the way for our forgiveness, for our eternity. Right now in 2025, surrender feels like weakness. We're told to hustle harder, grind longer, take control of everything. But Jesus shows us that true strength is found in letting go, in trusting the Father when everything inside you screams to run. His prayer teaches us that surrender isn't defeat, it's victory. Because through that one act of surrender, resurrection came. Hope came. Life came. So what do these 5 prayers mean for us? From Jesus on a hillside to Solomon in a dream, from Jabez in obscurity to Hannah in heartbreak, to Christ in the garden, the thread that ties them all together is this: prayer changes the future. Not just theirs. Yours. Think about it. The Lord's Prayer reminds us God is our Father in an age of fatherlessness. Solomon's prayer shows us the value of wisdom in a world drowning in information but starving for truth. Jabez proves that your past doesn't define your future. Hannah reveals that tears can turn to triumph. And Jesus in Gethsemane shows us that surrender to God is not weakness, it's the gateway to resurrection. These aren't just stories for Sunday school. They're survival guides for the mess we're living in right now. Maybe you're worried about your finances. Maybe you're crushed under anxiety about the future. Maybe you're tired of carrying scars from your past. Or maybe, like Jesus in the garden, you feel utterly alone in your struggle. These prayers are proof. God is listening. And He still moves. So here's the truth. Prayer isn't a magic formula. It's not about getting the words perfect. It's about crying out from wherever you are, broken, grateful, confused, or desperate, and trusting that God hears you. 5 prayers. 5 lives. 5 turning points in history. And the same God who answered him is still listening to yours today. If this journey through Scripture stirred something in you, you're definitely not alone. Stick around, because the next Bible story we're sharing is even more powerful. And if this spoke to you, consider subscribing to the Word. We drop meaningful, faith-filled content multiple times a week to keep your spirit fed. Don't miss what's next. 7 prayers God will answer daily. Stay blessed.